Okay, so I recently saw an interview on a YouTube channel called Dr. Know-It-All, and his guest was talking about how AI is going to replace artists first, which is kind of surprising to me, of course, being an artist. And they were using Google's Dall-E as an example, and it happens that on the same day I got my invite to start using Dall-E. So I thought it would be cool to do a test as an art director and see, can Dall-E actually replace an artist? Like, could I replace one of the artists on my team with Dall-E and get the same sort of level of work much quicker, or even the same speed but just cheaper? So this is going to be a round one. I think there's many different ways to do this test. This is just one, so I would call this round one. And specifically in this test, I am asking the artist to come up with a very specific result. So I don't just want some random image generated. I want something very specific that we can use for a production. That's how I'm treating this in round one. There can be other rounds we do later to test other things, but that's the first one, the first test. So for this test, I'm using an image that I already made, just grabbing it from my ArtStation, which I'll put on the screen. And you can see this is just a kind of simple image of a cottage in the woods, and has a bit of a sort of magical fairy tale feeling. But there's some very specific things in there that I wanted. I wanted the composition to be very specific. I wanted the cottage to be almost in the center. I wanted there to be a strong backlighting. I wanted it to be framed by the trees. I wanted the shadows on the ground. I wanted the colorful flowers to make it sort of feel inviting. There's a lot of things in there that I wanted for that image, and that if I was using it for a production, say, that I would need. So I'm going to see within maximum 10 rounds how close can I bring Dall-E to that image that I created. Could we make something the same but different, right? Something usable. Okay, so let's begin. This is the first description I gave Dall-E. An old cottage in a sunny forest. Pretty basic. And it came back with these results, which is effing amazing that it made these images within about 20 seconds. And they look sort of photorealistic, and you could put those in a brochure or something very easily. If you look closely, you can see the sort of artifacts and deformations, but if you're looking just at like thumbnail size, just quickly, it looked like a real photo, which is amazing. But it's again, the objective of this is to see how close we can get to the sort of guideline artwork. So I gave it a new description. This is the second description. This time I've asked it to do a painting of an abandoned cottage in a fairy tale forest with sunbeams. So this should give us something closer to the original artwork. What can I call that? To the what do you call that when you're testing something? Then you have the base, the something that doesn't change. Blah, that thing. So this is moving in the right direction. Definitely adding the painting to the description worked. I chose the second one and decided to do some versions of it. Like ask it, hey, can you do some iterations of this? And these are the iterations. Again, amazing, but these are moving in the wrong direction. They're going too dark. They're looking like kind of dark pastel sort of artworks. I tried to then use that image, but also give it a new description to see what it would do. So this time I've also added in a request to put a wagon wheel and in a flower bed and some butterflies in the air. The first two images don't really achieve anything. The third one does it very well. You can see the wagon wheel and the butterfly. So I took that image and asked it to do some more versions. I wasn't too happy with those. It was actually moving away, but I thought I would pick the second one and try to do some more versions. So that's this one, and again it's getting even darker and even more moody and less detailed, and yeah, it's just moving in the wrong direction. So I thought, okay, let's just do a fresh start. So remove everything, go back to the, whatever you'd call it, the home page, put in the almost the same description. This time I said a realistic painting to see what difference that would make. And I also said that the light beams are shining down, so maybe that's a better description than just say there are light beams. And immediately, like, it gave this very different result, which is interesting. That if you start fresh and you just change one word, it can give you such a different result. Like that left image is really fairy tale. Like with the purples and pinks, you can imagine that being in like a fairy book or something. I chose the image on the right and on the far right, and asked her to do some versions of that. I like how prominent the wagon wheel and the flower bed is, and the butterflies, and the cottage was also almost in the right place. So I thought maybe we do versions of that, and it would get closer to the requirements. Again, the versions sort of moved it away rather than moving it towards the goal. Interesting pictures, but it's starting to not look like a cottage. So again, fresh start, next round. And again, it's like it gives a much better result. I think just doing fresh rounds, slightly changing the description, maybe even not even changing the description, but at least doing a fresh round, you're going to get much more variation. This time I also added like that the picture is in the morning, so I thought maybe that would make a difference. The second image in this lineup is really cool. I think how the wagon wheel and the cottage are silhouetted against the background. It really gives the forest depth, and then how the foreground is darkened as well. I think that image is great. Like you could use that, but it's just not what we're looking for, but so close. So I didn't want to do the versions anymore so much, so I just went back to fresh start. I thought just keep doing fresh starts till I find something more accurate before I do another version. This one again, like really good results, but it started not to look fairy tale enough, maybe. Like the right, the left, the second one, these are all quite realistic. They look very nice, but again, it's not. There was a big step in the right direction, and now it's sort of leveled off. I also lengthened the description a lot, so I was really testing like how much description can we give Dall-E before it starts getting confused. So in this round, again, I was adding a bit more description for the cottage. I was saying it has a steep roof. I was saying it's backlighted because I liked that image from before, but rather than doing the version, I thought, let me change the description to try to get what I want. So I added the backlighting, and I actually like the two images on the right, especially the far right one. It looks great. I think it could fit in a lot of storybooks, book covers or whatever. It would work very well. But composition-wise and mood-wise, it's not where I want to go. So I thought I'll try another version, because the one on the far left, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look as cool as the other one, but the composition, at least it got the cottage in the middle. So I thought maybe might get lucky if I try one more. And this was the last one I tried. And again, the versions didn't work. The versions push it back to the beginning. They make it dark. They take out detail. It starts losing that magical touch that it had. So that was the last round. That was the 12th attempt, and at that point I stopped. I think I got an idea of what Dall-E can do. So let's go to the conclusion. Okay, so conclusion. What can Dall-E do? And will it replace you if you're an artist? It's going to replace a lot of artists. Not all of them, though. I see Dall-E now as an extremely good, almost like a clip art program generator. Like if you just want an image, right? So you just want an image of a cottage in a forest, and there's no narrative, nothing else attached to it. You just want the image. Dall-E's going to kick your ass as an artist. Say someone's written a book and they want an illustration for their cover, and there should just be a cottage in the forest. They don't need a concept artist or an illustrator to do it anymore. They can just go to Dall-E. They don't have to pay rights. They don't have to search for hours through Google to find the perfect image and then pay the stock company that owns the photo or the painting. They can just use Dall-E. So in that case, yes, Dall-E is going to replace a lot of artists and save a lot of time as well. Where it's not going to replace artists is in any sort of production where there's a need for a narrative attachment. So what I mean by that is that if you're designing for a game or a film, a TV series, something like that, you're not just designing a cottage. You're designing a cottage for a character in a story. So you have to know who lives in that cottage. You have to know the history of the cottage. And that's what a good concept artist would do, say, or a good illustrator, a good designer. I think if you go watch like the making of Lord of the Rings and see, I think her name is Nyla Dixon was the costume designer. Watch those videos of her talking about the costumes. When she's talking about, making Boromir's costume and Faramir, and she's saying, well, Boromir has the love of his father and Faramir is trying to prove himself, and he does that through the clothes that he wears, even though he's a ranger. So you have to think, okay, he's a ranger, he's in the forest, so he's wearing this sort of tough but flexible clothing. It's got to be this color. At the same time, she's thinking, well, he's also like the unloved son trying to win approval from his father, and that all gets funneled through the artist and put into the clothing. And even if you don't see it, even in the film, you wouldn't notice the small things, but it's there, and you multiply that through the whole production. So that the director is doing it, the costume designer is doing it, all the concept artists are doing it. The whole time they're thinking, they know the script, they know the story, they know the characters, and they're going to put that in, and you're going to end up with a final result that is just something that Dall-E wouldn't be able to do, at least not currently. It would have to know all the characters, it would have to know what the story is, it would then have to also be able to associate that with human life and culture. So yeah, you can, if you want, say to Dall-E, design me an elf costume, and it will take what's done already on Google and design you something, but it's not going to design you something for a character like Faramir, who's trying to win approval from his father, who's the guy of Gondor and blah blah blah, and the history and that. So yeah, that's the conclusion. Is Dall-E is great at making images, but it's not going to replace all artists, at least not yet. So if you are a concept artist and you're currently working, or you're an artist, like costume designers working in film, or production designer, stuff like that, I think our jobs are pretty safe. Dall-E wouldn't be able to replace one of the artists on my team, not yet. And yeah, that's where I'd leave it this round. I think a more interesting round, maybe I would do another one where I would say, like, how can Dall-E actually help artists? Like, if I wanted to paint that cottage again, or if I do some other picture, like, how could I use Dall-E to assist me to speed up things? Because you might be able to get a lot more out of an existing artist by using Dall-E. So maybe one artist would become like 1.5 artists if we have this tool and we can use it correctly. But otherwise, that's it. See ya.